make up about 90% of the volume. They make up less than 10% of the volume right now. So while China is important on the sentiment issue, in terms of trading volume, it's not as important as it was in 2016. In terms of how Bitcoin's reacting, I think it's very positive. I mean, the news from China is some of the news is that the stuff that keeps me up at night. A total ban of Bitcoin, and the fact that Bitcoin is resilient to that, to me, is very positive for it as an asset.
Brian, you say that it's by far the largest source of volume is now Japan. Is that not just kind of the shadow, though, of what's happening in China and basically people trying to move capital out of there?
It's hard to tell to get the exact numbers what is coming from China. That's exactly what China is trying to prevent. But I will say in Japan, most of the major banks and a lot of the Japanese individuals are trading Bitcoin. I mean, the Japanese individuals are very big spot foreign currency traders, so they're used to this type of thing, and there's a lot of demand for it. To separate out to China, I'm sure there's some people that are finding a channel to Japan, but I would say it's probably less than 10% of the volume as it gets.
So if they're going to do this, is it possible as more of a signpost than anything else? I mean, it is interesting, Brian, that Bitcoin is not more phased by this today. I guess my point is, if China does it, do other countries start to pile on as well? Look at the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, the quote-unquote central bank for central banks over the weekend, putting out sort of a report saying that the world central banks need to kind of look at Bitcoin and study it a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, so again, this is my big fear. We're early days in this technology. We're early days of this as an asset class. So my biggest fear is that you get this worldwide ban in Bitcoin. The reason I don't think it's going to happen is because you've seen some other countries, particularly the U.S., moving a more Bitcoin cryptocurrency friendly. I mentioned Japan, South Korea. The UK has a very Bitcoin friendly, cryptocurrency friendly regime. And even the SEC came out and said, listen, there are some of these initial coin offerings and cryptocurrencies that are securities. But the ones that aren't securities, well, you know what? They're okay to trade.
It's interesting you interpreted it that way. I mean, Michael, I don't know what you thought, but when I heard, what the way that the SEC and certainly the Canadian authorities are talking about it, seemed to indicate if there's any evidence you behave like a security, we are going to regulate you like that. And so whether that means we're doing this retroactively or not, you're sort of on watch.
You're definitely on watch, although I don't think that they're necessarily focusing in on actual Bitcoin into dollar transactions and things like that. As far as I can tell, it's these other vehicles that wrap around it, and maybe the SEC wants to kind of claim some kind of jurisdiction over that. I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, Brian, you say you've been kind of encouraged by the way the market has kind of absorbed this measure by China, which is funny because the bulls on Bitcoin, they love this idea that the authorities don't want you to be able to do this. It's an outlaw thing. It's a maverick thing. But at what point does that get taken too far? Does the price get disengaged from what the technological opportunity is?
Well, that's a great question. And yes, there's without question part of Bitcoin community that wants this to be kind of the outlaw type of thing. It was designed to resist this exact type of thing. My view on all of this is that for Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrencies to fulfill their potential as kind of Web 3.0, then it's going to have hooks into the normal system, into our regulatory system. So I frankly would welcome the SEC regulating these. I didn't mean to suggest that they shouldn't. I actually think they should. If it's security, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, then you know what? Regulate it as a duck.